proposing that the city of Spokane Valley issue a proclamation stating that our city is a Second Amendment sanctuary city.
Welcome to the fire. Welcome to the fire.
Today on Church and State, we will be interviewing Andrew Hoy of Project 314. We're going to be talking about the Tabernacle of Shaddai, Bet Shaddai, the house of God. We're going to be talking about that in detail. Before we do, I want to welcome you, Christian patriots, to the show that strives to plug you into the pew and plug you into politics. The only show that's going to cover the two subjects Mama said not to talk about at the dinner table during Thanksgiving because it will offend your blue-haired aunt: politics and faith. Jesus right here in the very smack dab. He's here with us in the room. Chris, my producer, is also here in the room, but Jesus is here in the room. He's the referee that helps us define what is good to talk about between faith and politics. Today, we're going to interview somebody who's talking about the thing that we're going to talk about, Beit Shaddai, the house of God, the tabernacle of God. Obviously, the tabernacle of God is men's hearts now, but there was a time when the tabernacle was just for God, and it was a particular place and building. So we're going to hit that in a few minutes. Before we do, go to our website. Check it out, churchandstate.media. Check out our past interviews. Those of you who are hearing us for the first time, like, subscribe to our podcast. You can find us at all the traditional places, whether it's Spotify, Apple Music, all of that. Look at our older, we have some great interviews. Laura Logan, we just recently had in studio. We also had, we're talking about Mike Smith. We're going to be having him on the show actually today. His documentary, Into the Light. Also, please continue to support us if you want to donate to us or contact us on our Facebook page. Is a place you can contact us. One of our sponsors, we're on literally Clay Clark's show. We were with Andrew Shorchini at Beverly Hills Precious Metals there in Southern California. Good friend of ours. Please, those of you who are thinking right now, hey, I got to do everything I can to protect from the oncoming dollar crash. Those of you who have wisdom and you can see it, the leaves are changing. The season is changing. Gold-backed currency is where it's beginning to change. BRICS nations, they're all converting their dollars no longer in the U.S. dollar. They're converting it in their own BRICS nations currency. So do everything you can for your family to be able to be prepared in this economic change. BH-PM is where you can go to their website, or either at their website, you can get a phone number, call somebody. You don't have to work with the automated. You actually get somebody who's in the flesh, going to work with you, can convert your own IRA, your own Roth, your own stock. You can convert it into a precious metals account, no tax. And you have physical gold, not paper gold, physical gold. Please, they're getting inundated with calls, and because people are getting wise. They're getting wise to what's going on. So do everything you can to not only succeed, because we're not here to survive. No matter what happens, Jesus is on the throne. We don't operate in a spirit of fear, but go to their website, BH-PM. All right. Today, if you can just go ahead and pull up, Chris, the website. This is Project 314. Project314.org. There is a very, very astute colleague. His name is Andrew Hoy. He's been studying in detail, super detail, the tabernacle of God, and it's going to blow you away, those of you who are watching this, because the shape, size, and schematics that you may have always thought that the tabernacle and layout of David or of the traditional one that Moses had might quite be what you imagine. So with that, Andrew, thank you so much for being on Church and State.
Thanks for inviting me, Gabe. Pleasure to be here. As far as the tabernacle, I discovered this about coming up on 10 years ago now, and I did it really by accident. Being an engineer, I'm not all that drawn. The Bible depiction of everything, being the shoebox thing. It just never had any appeal to me. So I was like, shoulder shrugging. So you describe it as like really interesting and everything, and it's like I never really thought myself of saying, hey, wow, I'm gonna dig into this. So that's getting into it almost by mistake, is how I got there. So
I love it. They're a good colleague of mine. His job study, he was a fire investigator, and he ended up doing a thing called the Copper Scroll Project. Like, sometimes people just fall into what God has for them. And to me, that doesn't disqualify you, because a lot of scientists, they have all this long pedigree and blah, blah, blah. But you know what's more important than pedigree? Passion. So if you're passionate about it, you're the one to talk to. So share with us, you've shared with me in Tulsa, Oklahoma, briefly, the shape and size. You like, even the picture behind you on your left shoulder is a dome. It's just crazy. A dome for the tabernacle. Now, can you tell us whether that was the tabernacle of David that you're describing, or tabernacle of Moses?
We say tabernacle of Moses, but getting into the tabernacle of David, actually the word sukkah is mentioned there. Sukkah, which is like the Feast of Tabernacles, is Sukkot in the plural. So we have arguably Mishkan is the term, as well as Ohel Moed, which is basically dwelling place. Mishkan is where you get the word Shekinah, and Sakin, skin. This is where we get skin. You mentioned the the indwelling, the divine indwelling. I believe is a both and. So we have this the idea he came to dwell in their midst, but also in their midst. And so I think it was always that way. So I think there was a dual element of it, because you did have the glory descend and everything. But as far as the dome is it just is something very foreign to people, and this is all comes about because they kind of attach the curtains wrong. If you attach the curtains on the short edges instead of the long edges, you get just a big long strip, and this is where we get the this is where I found the 314 number. Is pi. So multiple of pi. It just shifted the whole paradigm and stuff. I'm like pulling a threads on a sweater. I'm just like unraveling, and so there's a lot to be unraveled, lost in translation.
So walk us backwards through this process. Why were you looking for the dimensions, and what wasn't adding up? So it sounds to me like you're a student at math. How did you see this? What was going on?
Well, I was into something kind of esoteric, a study of electricity in the Bible, which I usually don't make mention of. But and the rabbis in the when they were adopting modern Hebrew, they were the term chashmal. This is something that they saw in the book of Ezekiel, and they're like, the rabbis are like, no, you can't use that to describe electricity. The guys who are incorporating modern Hebrew are just like, well, this seems to be the most fitting terms, and so they kind of parted ways a little bit at that point. But I was trying to see electricity in the Bible, and so getting into static electricity, and people were talking about the curtains and the generating electricity and everything. So I'm kind of looking at it from that standpoint, and that's how I got into it, which is just a real weird thing. I was kind of doing a different Hebrew word study. I was looking at cherubim and stuff. So this is how I stumble upon it, and then I start like laying it out and everything like that. I had it in a spreadsheet, and as I saw the sum of numbers in my head, and I thought of it in this axis and that axis. I'm like, wait a minute, this seems to be really close to 315, which is one off from pi. And sure enough, I read Exodus 26:13. And when I saw Exodus 26:13, it says take a little here, a little there, a cubit, and I'm like, oh, this is a subtracting factor. So I'm like, wow, this is pi in the Bible. It's in the plain sight. It's been staring at us all along. It ain't in your grandma's Bible, because all the illustrations. I mean, and our minds get fixated on images, and images like this. If people ever try to actually build that, you go to Israel. I've been in Israel a couple times. When I say a couple times, I was in there for a year learning Hebrew. But there's two tabernacles, physical ones, or there was when I was there last. One in Shiloh and one in Ariel. And you start looking at all this, and like structurally, it's like this doesn't add up. It's all religious theater. It's you have hollow wood and plywood, things with drywall screws, and they're substituting metal for wood and wood for metal, and it's just like, what's going on here? So it just doesn't make a stitch of sense. So
to me, like, the thirst for knowledge is insatiable in me. I want to know why, and I also want to know what it looks like. Walking through in your mind's eye a dome, where would the presence of worship be central to? The very, very middle? Because we see that the Holy of Holies in Herod, his version, also Solomon's temple, we see in the very, very back, we see this lone place called the Holy of Holies that was only accessible one day a year by the senior high priest, a special offering and everything, all of his garb. He wouldn't wear any of that. Where would the Holy of Holies be in this positional kind of like place? Would it still be towards the back? Maybe do an explanation. If you want to show any pictures as well, we can have our technician kind of show that as well.
Yep. So right now you had on the website was kind of cycling through the images, So I guess if you can just leave that up there. I mean, explaining it this way. So this is like a 12-second, loop cycle that's on my my website. So we go from this dome, this expectation of the dome. You rearrange all those parts, and you will get that dome tent if you're arranging it properly. You're not making big wood walls, thick, crazy things with a 4-layer fabric roof. So getting into the Holy of Holies, it actually, and we talked about this right now. It says, "Do you believe God's dwelling in their midst?" So if He's dwelling in the midst of them, guess what? All his people are all what? Surrounding Him. So what part of midst do we not understand? So when we see that,
and
that,
all
that
as
kind of
well,
language,
yeah.
I'm sorry.
And all as well. If all of them are dwelling in His midst, no one has like a special seat. No one.
Right.
Like,
There's the Levites are in tighter, right? They're the joiners. And the reason that they're in there, in my opinion, is because after they got the commandments on the mountain, they all freaked out, and it's like, don't have God speak to us again, or we'll die. So they were basically renouncing their right to the priesthood. You can't be, a priest if you're saying, I don't want to hear from the Almighty. It just doesn't work out. So the Levites at that point were appropriated in arguably in place of the firstborn. But this whole thing of equal access, you had a case of equal access, regardless of tribe, everyone's around the same side.
So you're saying He would have been directly, His presence or whatever, they had in the middle would have been directly smack dab in the middle, not towards the west or the east or the north or the south. It would have been smack dab in the middle.
Right.
Which is,
Absolutely.
to me, when I read the scripture, especially about the tabernacle of David, the way the Psalms are written, you see that His presence, the only, like David says, it'd be better to be a doorman. And even the doorman obviously had a position to see the Holy of Holies, meaning there was no locked away back curtain to where you couldn't have access. Literally, His presence was out there in the opening. And we see that in Jesus as well. Like His presence is with us. And a lot of theologians say that in the new covenant, we're jumping back to that Davidic form of worship, which was He was there for all of us. He was right there in the middle. So go ahead, your thoughts.
Well, the God of the new is the God of the old, right? And so the I change not. You mentioned a psalm that kind of triggered the song in my head. People will sing again and again. Better is one day what
in your house.
Courts.
Yeah, in your courts
than 1,000 elsewhere. So getting into this interest level and priority. People are not interested in this box thing. They are not intuitively, because it doesn't make a stitch of sense, and they deal with it from the standpoint of a religious accommodation. Once you realize that we have this dome, God's home is a dome, everything starts making sense. You start reading the book of Hebrews, and it's like when I see the book of Hebrews talks about how the priests serve at a sanctuary that is likened unto, kind of heaven and earth, right? So guess what is not likened? You never see, go Google the word heaven. You will never see anything look like the shoebox tabernacle. I call it the shoebox.
Right.
Because I'm not speaking of it affectionately. I'm speaking of it with in a derogatory way. This traditional thing, you never see that in depictions of heaven.
Right.
Oh, it's like, here's Jesus the high priest serving in this box. No, He's not at all. And so that this whole expectations of that, like, it's just a paradigm shift that really needs to happen. I mean,
let's talk about the sacrifice. Where would the sacrifice have been made in the Mosaic? Kind of would have been made outdoors, and then obviously it would have been brought in as far as the blood and then it would have been sat on the mercy seat. Would the Ark of the Covenant been directly in the center, and then people would have seen this process, or was this just simply for the Levites in this?
Well, I would take issue with the term mercy seat, I guess, is kind of a general thing. It's a little bit of a misnomer, because wherever you see that term for the Ark, you don't see the word mercy in Hebrew.
You see bema, I believe.
I'm sorry?
Is it the word bema?
I think getting into mercy, you have like chen and chesed, the idea of kindness and everything. So this idea of that is not coupled into where it's mentioning the Ark of the Covenant.
Right.
It's, even to call it the Ark of the Covenant, the word ark in Hebrew is orech. It means it's talking about a measurement, a length type
Right.
thing. And so this whole, that's also a misnomer then. So we have
Right.
Noah's Ark and then the Ark. So we use all these Hebrew terms. We're using them in English, like Aish versus Esh. Aish, referring to fire. Well, what do we call the end product of fire in English? Ash.
Right.
So it's like it gets into all this skewing, linguistic dysfunction of English. I'm trying to go back to your original question on the sacrifice. The sacrifice, it talks about doing this at the entrance of the tent of meeting. Okay, so if we got this shoebox here, where do they put it? They put it, right here, and then this. If this is at the entrance of the tent of meeting, everyone thinks this courtyard is like one big animal pasture. Okay.
Right.
So think of what a mess that would be if you're bringing in all those animals. This is a holy place, and so this is the distance in thinking that as far as let's ponder this from a logistical standpoint, right? So if we look back at this and say, how are our logistics? What does it look like to parade heaps of animals in this loop, in this circle? It doesn't work in this box thing between the dead ending and waist in and waist out. When it says at the entrance of the tent of meeting, well, the tent of meeting is Ohel Moed, and the Ohel Moed, it's actually at the outside and the gate. So you got the gate part where you're entering in, and this is you're not bringing that into the courtyard. There's no reason to be bringing this. You talk about sprinkling blood at the altar, but the altar is also at the entrance of the tent of meeting. This. The way that they're depicting, this, when I say they, this is kind of my summation of their representation. You see this little basin, the basin there. Think of that as they're supposed to wash their hands and feet before they went in. The priest, that is, right? So to go and have this where it's like putting your welcome mat for your door, or at your house. If you live in an apartment, right? So do you put that out at the curb? You put your welcome mat out there? No, you put it right in front of the door.
Right.
So can you please take your shoes off when you come into the house? Can you wipe your feet before you come into the house, or
Right.
whatever? Why would you set that back away from the entrance of the tent of meeting, and why would you bring the altar inside this area that you're supposed to keep holy? It's
Right.
like, well, I can tell you how you use the word holy. Holy cow, my feet are all full of manure.
Right.
This is part of our religious fiction. It's religious fiction, religious theater, and so that's part of the project. Project314.org. And I've got other people who are helping in volunteer capacities. With between outreach and research and everything, and there's a lot of dimensions to research. So, in my opinion, this is kind of like the Rosetta Stone of the Bible in a lot of ways. So,
can you show us? Can you click through some of the examples on? Yeah, and feel free to just pop them up there. Our technician, show us. It's to me intriguing some of the images that you have as far as the tent. Like you actually have some, I believe, math. Is there any images you can show us?
Let me just bring up. Well, when I say a real easy, the interior, I've got in my book, The House of El Shaddai. The House of El Shaddai does, a walkthrough. I do 4 chapters. So, you look at all the other tabernacle books, and the other tabernacle books, they don't even mention Exodus 26 a lot. Exodus 26 is where the tabernacle, the blood and guts, the meat and bones of the tabernacle is described in that, and then in 27 it talks about the courtyard. So I can bring up a, let's see here. Let me just start by bringing up the, why am I having, It's a different file. I'm sorry.
No, you're okay. We have images that are in the background right now while you're doing that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I should. Okay, that's where I need to go for that. I have too many files. There's getting into all the dimensions of this thing. There are, so many facets. You want to talk prophecy. There's prophecy in it. There's gematria or like numerology type stuff.
Anything pi is fascinating to me. Here's why. I'm just so there's the scripture verse Genesis chapter 3 and verse 14. It talks in that verse. Ancient theologians believe that was called the proto-evangelion, or the first gospel, because it was a promise that to Eve, her descendants would crush the serpent's head. And that's in verse 15. Verse 14 talks about all the days of your life, you will go on your belly and you will eat the dust of the earth. In fact, my technician's pulling it up right now. Genesis 3, verse 14. Then the Lord said to the serpent, because you have done this, cursed are you more than all the livestock and more than any animal of the field. On your belly you shall go, and dust you shall eat all the days of your life. So that's the curse of the devil. So that's like the first access. Then the second access is this. In verse 15, I will make enemies between you and the woman and your offspring and her descendant. He will bruise your head, and you shall bruise him on the heel. This is the first promise given to mankind. This is the first gospel. Very interesting. I read this a long time ago. It's very cyclical, the very story. This is evidence. It's not a coincidence. This is the first circle. To me, the shape would be a dome and a circle is very, to me, telling. I've always believed that the power of the circle in that verse, and it's no coincidence that it's 3, 1, 4, and verse 5, which 3, 4, you round up 3.15. Yep. So your thoughts?
Yeah. Basically getting into that same theme of 3:14, we see 2 Chronicles 3:14 is describing what? The Holy of Holies. Okay, so it's not just 3:14 that's representing pi, but it's 42. And when I say it's 42, because there's 42 gateposts around the courtyard, around the exterior. Okay, so if you know that, it's like, well, what does the word number 42 have to do with this circle? Well, it's 3 times 14. Guess how many generations we see, I want to say, in the book of Matthew. It talks about the 42 generations, right? So this whole, and getting back why I call this the House of El Shaddai, the book that I have, Shaddai is Shin, Dalet, Yud. Shin is 300 in Hebrew. Dalet is like our letter D in English, the fourth letter. And Yud is the 10th. And so we have the sum of that. So El Shaddai literally is the God of pi, and that's why I call it the House of El Shaddai. It's never described that way in the Bible, but Jews will put the Shaddai, the Shin, and Shaddai in their mezuzot on their doorposts, right? So this whole notion of how this is related to doorposts. Here I got my screen. So this is just a real simple diagram of how the picture how the curtains are going. So we have 11 curtains. It's talking about in Exodus 26, and the 11th one, the last one, is folded over
wow.
at the end or the latter.
See,
part,
the Illuminatists are extremely obsessed with the number 11, especially 1111. That's very deep that there's 11.
Well, and 11 is often rebellion, but we have to remember it's folded over.
Yeah.
But what do we have? We have the house of when I say the house. We have 11 is it depicts disintegration, but 12 is like a divine governance, like
right.
Like the 12 tribes. Mm-hmm. But apart from that, or in addition to that, we have the dome. We have this we have a gate curtain. So we literally have kind of have 12 gate curtains around the courtyard. They're 11 whole pieces plus the 12th. Well, the 12th is multicolored, mm-hmm. And the other one is folded in half. So on one hand, you can say it's representing both the half tribe of Judah and Manasseh. I'm sorry, of Ephraim and Manasseh, and there's a lot of interpretation things that this starts to arguably reveal.
And were you saying that there was 42 posts in this?
Yes.
And how would the layout be? Would there be two in between each
I can
curtain?
bring that. I can grab that and I got that in a PDF. Let me crank that open here. And English. Um, yeah. So the way that the courtyard, it's really, it was really the key to get this all kind of pointed in the direction. So right now, I can put, there I am. Okay, I'm a little guy down in the corner now. So if we have, this is the courtyard, and just uh, you know, as the instructions are given, it says there's 20 posts to the north and 20 posts to the south, and then we've got a another gate post. There's four more posts that are used to gate the tabernacle. So this is how we have our 24. I'm sorry, our 42 going around. So this is part of a drawing set. I have this drawing set for sale, where I'm reducing this to 4 pages. Okay, so this is basically chapter 27, all the stuff that pertains to how they're doing all these various parts and pieces of the tabernacle. So it's, we really have something like a bill of material, or more like I want to say an engineering spec. You could argue. The fact that this is, when I started reading this, I'm like, holy cow, this is like an engineering spec that's like super efficient. It's like a really along these lines. I have a model that for a home built type thing. So this is my model kit that we're in the process of marketing and releasing here. So it's a 400-piece kit, and for people to be able to see the the biblical compliance. The number of pages in the manual is about, I don't know, 42. So we have pictures and text, and with the pictures and text, we get to see how each of these parts is really instrumental in not making the shoebox tabernacle. But
hey, real quickly, I'm going to interrupt you. We're going to dismiss our terrestrial radio listeners, American Christian Network listeners. You have been listening to Andrew Hoy. Please check out his website, project314.org. Go there. I suspect anybody who goes there is going to be able to find any links to his products. Also, anything you would like to get informed on. Those of you who want to hear the continuation, we're going to go on probably for another 15 minutes talking with Andrew in detail. We're going to have him back on the show again. Everything that I'm hearing is amazing. And I'm going to ask you this question. Do you know the meaning of life? The movie Galaxies, or the ultimate question of life in the movie, The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Do you know the answer to that? The meaning of life?
I'm familiar with the title of The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, but no, I don't.
This is going to blow you away. You ready for this? In the movie, the meaning of life is the number 42. They literally put that out there in the open, and I believe that mathematically they're actually right. We'll probably talk about that here in a second. Those of you who've been with us, we're going to say goodbye to our friend Andrew. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
All right. Those of you who are still here, we're going to continue on. Andrew, could the meaning of life be 42?
Well, it's not a mistake that is put. God is a God of numbers and math, and if people are bad at math, it makes them feel uncomfortable. And it's really, some people are like, when I say the pi constant, they're like, they tuck into the shell, and it's like, we have to get past the kind of any sort of emotional thresholds we might have, or maybe our math teacher was mean, or
right.
To think of this as God is a God of numbers. He's a God of order. He's an intelligent designer. This is a huge case for intelligent design, instead of this other dopey thing that won't even stand up on its own, on its own legs, so to speak. So this whole restoring these other fields to religious study, getting into the STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, math. This does it all. I mean, I could do. I have aspirations to do engineering level curriculum, engineering primer, based on this. Because I've done the research. I'm looking at the volumes and the densities and the stresses. of all these things. It has to be to work. And I actually have built this. I built an 1/8 scale model. I've got a 6 scale and a 1/4 scale model builds underway, which are now you're looking at 50 feet diameter, or 30 to 50, or 50 feet diameter, depending upon on which about. And so, the goal, project goal is really to make it so that people can experience this. I mean,
And
this is
we're
something.
seeing on now, because of Ken Ham, I don't know if there's something you could do to partner with him. The ARC experience in Arkansas was so phenomenal. We're seeing an uptake in Christianity, wanting to see hands-on type stuff. We've seen people produce and kind of do rough examples of tabernacles that might come through your town, but people want to see this stuff. People are intrigued by it. It draws in numbers. So I love the idea of you producing down the road something like, and I'm sure investors would be licking their chops at the idea of having some big tabernacle like this for people to see at first person.
Yep, I've been in talks with a guy from Missouri. I've been to Kansas Museum where I've got an 1/8 scale built right now, which the base that, we kind of made a platform plywood base for it because it is a smaller model. We had to elevate it, but we got 50 people inside of it.
Wow.
It was 35 feet diameter. We put it up in a like a church gymnasium type thing. So that was my first proof of concept,
Wow.
So I was having a hard time finding engineers who wanted to go pro bono and review all my content, right? Because it's like I've got engineering calculations to back all this up, but you know what? I don't need those. You know why? It's because I built this. I
Right.
built it. It stands.
Yep.
It's like this is divine. What do you call it? It's divine engineering. Should we not expect it for it to work? And it's like you show me where anyone else in history has described, given specifications for a 6-story tenter building in one
Wow.
chapter volume of the Bible, right? This is, it's a really, it's when I say it's a gem. So the architect that was given, his name was Bezalel. Betzal means onion, or God's onion, if you
Ooh.
will, you could say. So you get layers to
Round.
things, right? But right, and it just peeks out of the ground like a dome. The hint, right? And so what other things can we glean from it? This idea of house in God's image, we get the word Bezel from that Betzal, right? So it's the Tzadi in Hebrew, which is like a TZ, like we pronounce like the PZ, ZZ in pizza almost,
Right.
We don't say pizza, we say pizza, and so that's the Tzadi. So when people talk about bezels, so Betzel is from that. So it's the idea of images and facets. So this is a multifaceted thing. So it's not meaning just one thing. So you talk about the meaning of life, and it's like, well, if the Almighty wanted, his people to make this, and it's like, this is the only thing, that he ever commanded people to build, with the exception of the ark. With the exception of the Noah's Ark.
Right.
So Noah's Ark was for a time and a place, and I kind of joke from time to time saying, well, the Ark Encounters is it's a boat that won't float for a flood that won't happen. But
Right.
But seriously, it does bear testimony. It's as it is in the days of Noah. So if we're
Right.
living
We're
days of
here.
Noah, right? And
Quick question while we're on that. So was the ark that Moses or even Solomon built, because I'm super curious, I've been heard geometrically the ark, which actually housed the 10 Commandments, Aaron's staff, some manna, that thing is used, if you look at the rectangle shape that it is, it's Avogadro's number, or 1.618, which is, they call it like divine math or something like that. Because if you look at the cube or square rectangle shape, it falls back in on itself, kind of, like the Nautilus shape. Have you heard that at all? Because I'm curious, if you say, I'm not going to say that I believe it, but it would be very interesting if you're going to say, like, even the ark itself that housed the 10 Commandments was round shaped, or is the ark, in your opinion, rectangular shaped?
Well, you have the Fibonacci sequence, I guess what you're referring to.
Yes.
Avogadro's is like 6.02.
Yes, I got them mixed. It's mixed up. Not Avogadro's number, the Fibonacci sequence. Exactly.
Yeah.
One.
But or the golden mean, right?
Yes,
So the
yes.
golden mean, or the it's called the phi ratio. And it wasn't right away where I started looking into that, but when I finally started looking into Right. I started looking into more of this sacred geometry
Right.
concepts, and starting to say, well, let's explore the edges of the box, so to speak. Yeah, that ratio it seems to be discussed in between the 1.5 and 2.5, dimensions that are given in Exodus 25. What was I going to say on that? But the golden mean is also very associated with pentagonal shapes. So pentagon. Well, in this case, we have the tabernacle is a decagon. So when we see things like make sure you make everything according to the pattern, shown to you in the mountain, the commandments, in this idea of the commandments shown to you in the mountain. Well, the Ten Commandments, we have it resting on 10 pillars. Well, guess what? This thing is resting on 10 pillars.
Amazing.
10 is indicative of divine governance. So we have this. It's a very different. Once you start to unplug this again, it just keeps on unraveling and unraveling and
The
unraveling.
mysteries just keep showing up. Like even that. So there's 10 posts for the 11 sheets of fabric, correct?
That's actually you're getting the courtyard confused with the next layer in.
Okay.
So
How many?
we have.
Yeah, go ahead.
We have the Mishkan, or the dwelling place, established in Exodus 26:1 by 10 sheets of fabric.
Okay.
So that's the 10 sheets, corresponding with the decagonal base, right? And so beyond that, then you have then Exodus 26 verse 7 to 13 is talking about the second set, and that second set's the set of 11. That's where they're going, around the whole thing, because it says to put that around or over the sides of the tabernacle. Okay, so this is where the shoebox models, they start stacking these as layers.
Right.
And it's like what sense is this to stack multiple layers? It's just like, yeah, I got a sheet of Egyptian cotton, and then I got a nice fleece blanket to keep me warm, and then my bedspread. It's
Right.
like, this isn't what you do for a hot box in the wilderness.
Mm-hmm.
You just. Oh, I was going to say you were asking about the location earlier. Well, in Timnah, which is where the model is, it's run by Christians. The nice thing about the Holy of Holies in their model back there is they have an air conditioner in the back.
Of course. Yeah.
So they need to, because they got no airflow. They got
Right.
no airflow. They're getting into natural convection, etc. I mean, it's a different thing. So it's just, again, one of the case where it's like, what are you guys trying to sell us here? And say, and it's, I can't, you can't look at them, because the fact that I discovered this, when I say discovered this by accident, it's like I didn't go in looking for it. I'm not going to say I'm going to redesign the tabernacle today. I'm not going to do my own thing. But so many people have looked at that text and they just,
yeah, exactly. As they're reading through Leviticus or Numbers, they gloss right on through it. But to the intrigued mind by math, like yourself, you're wanting to unravel this mystery. The Bible talks about in Proverbs that God conceals a matter, but it's the honor of kings to unravel it or to find it out. So you're a king in your own right by finding out this mystery. You were saying earlier, we've only got a couple minutes left. And we're going to have you on again, because we've only scratched the surface. You've done online, like literal videos and stuff like that, and spend as much as 9 hours talking about the stuff. But we're going to have you back on. What can you tell our listeners about anything, any homeschool or teaching things? Because you were saying, you're mentioning that there's ways for people to actually study this and look into it even more.
Yep. So, I guess first and foremost, from a book standpoint, books are kind of a dead. When I say a dead medium, they're dead medium because, well, as Solomon said, "Is the writing of books there is no end." And so a lot of these things are just one thing quoting from another thing. Mm-hmm. Originally, I had this down to four sheets, 4 drawing sheets, and you saw the fourth of that set. So you can condense it that tightly, okay. So if you look at Bible commentaries on it, from the Jewish ones like Art Scroll, they make a lot of really brilliant things, and you get all these verbose, you read Bible commentaries before, right? So,
right.
So when you're reading all that, it's like, well, gee, did that really add any clarity to that verse? It's like, no. So sometimes they're just trying to add volume, and sometimes the volume of the study Bible comments are bigger than the text themselves, and that's what you'll find in the in the Jewish set. So this is, first of all, I've got a drawing set which I dial it all down to 4 pages. So if you don't like to read a lot, you can go through it that way. When I was on with David Whited, he was saying, oh, these things work, great as placemats. So you put them as placemats, so you're on your table, so they're laminated and everything like that. So spill your coffee and dribble your Cheerios on it if you like, and you can clean it up. So that is one case. I mean, that is made for more of the adult audience. But when you get into the House of El Shaddai, the book, I have that on Amazon and also on my website. That is going through again, verse by verse, and I'm going through, it's 200 pages, and I get into a lot of detail, and I don't think it's very frightening in that it's all illustrated, so you can just thumb through it. If you're a picture reader, and that's all you want to do is look at the pictures, you can come to understand. And I'm actually deconstructing this shoebox model in favor of building this dome model, right? So so that's what the book is doing, is giving people like real, you want a mastery of this over your pastor, you can do that. But you could start reading that. You could possibly, as a 6th grader, 8th grader, depending upon different aptitudes and interest levels and stuff.
We're at your website right now. I'm going to show this in the background. It looks like you have a DVD as well that people can purchase.
That's a CD-ROM.
Okay, CD-ROM.
And that's actually, it's available at USB now.
Okay.
But the that is a a PowerPoint, which it's a self-guided PowerPoint.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that product's available both on Amazon as well as my website. And that is, we're currently revamping that to, we're going to rebranding that as Beit Shaddai. Again, Beit is Hebrew for house. It's a lot of times used to describe schools or whatever. So School of Shaddai, School of 314. So we're basically revamping this content, and that's available online on my website on a where you can do the beta program up until a certain point, and it's got built-in quizzes. The whole website on the left there, but yeah, Beit Shaddai test. The whole website is currently getting we're doing a makeover, so to speak, and so this is available as an online tool. So this has interactive quizzes at the end and so forth.
I love it. That's a really good resource for homeschoolers and also for people who are looking to go to the next level and trying to understand God. And it sounds to me that this, there's such a thing as head knowledge and heart knowledge. And I just really want people to strive to have both. Jesus said that there would be a people who know him in spirit and in truth. Pharisees couldn't just know him and not be connected with him. And us as Christians can't be just all evangelical emotion and not doing some of this stuff, trying to understand the book of Numbers, understand the book of Exodus, Leviticus. This really does both. And I want to honor you. It's been a pleasure. We have your website up. I want to just say it one more time, project314.org, project314.org. And we definitely want to have you back, Andrew. Last closing thoughts, and we'll be heading on out.
Yeah, real quick, I have a webinar series. I got a 7-part webinar where I'm going through the whole build of this in the first 2 series. After that, I get into the anatomical sides of this, because we have that Corinthians text, how the body is likened to the temple, etc. And there's all sorts of really anatomical terms that are being used in that. So
hold
that
image right there. I want people to see the next one. The next date of your webinar is Saturday.
Well, I'm sorry. That's an old
okay,
from an old run. So but this is, you can buy the recordings right now. So I'm not sure when I'm going to offer this live again. But live, I've gone as long as 9 hours on some of these sessions.
Wow.
I mean, I do the that's where the Q&A kicks in. Okay, so I'm doing like about a 2-hour presentation in each of those. And so I'm going through after the tabernacle, explaining that. Then I get into the anatomical side. I get into so that's one entire session. I get into the priest and the priest garments and the camp. How all that is related in here. I get into I guess perceptions of animal sacrifice. I get into the messianic side of this, because there's a lot of messianic imagery within it. Mm-hmm. And I also get into the altar, getting into the design of the altar. That's where I get into more of that phi ratio, or the Fibonacci sequence and phi. So these are, again, they go, about 2 hours of just the teaching, but we've gone pretty long on some of the aftermath discussions. So again, you can get the recording, but I'm not running them live right now. I've got too many things I'm already trying to
Right.
juggle and manage with the whole thing. So.
Well, it's been a pleasure, Andrew. Like, I absolutely believe that your thoroughness and that spirit of an engineer has been something that has driven you to find treasure. And this to me is just, this is phenomenal. We're going to continue to, in the future have you back, because like I said, we've only scratched the surface. So I'm Pastor Gabe, and you've just been here listening to Andrew Hoy of the Project 314. Just remember this, guys. The end is drawing nigh. What is your foundation? It better be Jesus Christ. I'm Pastor Gabe. A calm does not suit me. And on behalf of Caleb Collier, he was born for a storm.
Welcome to the fire.
The doctor that I recommend for all of your needs is the Underground Clinic doctor, Dr. Troy Spurl.
Because Dr. Troy is the best doctor, bar none.
This is the great thing about officialsignups.com is it's in all 50 states. You don't have to be in Michigan or Minnesota. You can be in Hawaii, you can be in Florida, and you can find a doctor that you can trust. If you are still wearing a mask, if you have rolled up your sleeve and gotten all the jabs and all the boosters, then Official Signups is not for you. You want to go find one of those big pharma doctors that'll give you all the prescriptions you want, and you can live a very sickly life.
Well, if you're looking for a doctor for yourself, or maybe even a doctor for your family, or a doctor who's not going to push vaccines on you, you want to go to officialsignups.com. You for sure need to mention church and state when you go to officialsignups.com to take part in all the savings, all the great deals for you and your family.
With the rise of the BRICS nations, you've got a lot of nations that are gathering together, and they're all doing a gold-backed currency. The United States is not, and the petrodollar is starting to fail. And my suggestion to all of you would be to get behind gold and silver, because that is the currency that is always going to have value.
I might not be a gold or silver guru, but I want to have something tangible in my hands at the end of the day. So I would definitely recommend every one of you go to bh-pm.com.
All you got to do is look around and see that the price of everything is increasing. Gold and silver is on the rise. It's being artificially suppressed. You want to schedule a consultation right now so that your families don't end up in the bread line and you're saying, please, sir, can I have some more?
Stop waiting. What are you waiting for? 4 years from now, prices are going to be absolutely astronomical. Go to bh-pm.com. Get a consultation now. You definitely want to mention church and state. It will get you the best prices. It will get you the best consultation advice. Use church and state when you go to bh-pm.com.
MyPillow.com has got more than just pillows. You've got your slippers, your bathrobes. You have towels that actually dry you off, not the kind you buy at Walmart where it's just kind of a slick mess. They have got some of the best products out there. The sheets are absolutely incredible. I think it's 1,000 count. It's the best products you can buy. And the pillows even have silencer technology in it. And so if you need a day where you're just going to scream into your pillow, don't worry, your neighbors won't hear you.
Why would you want to go to Bed Bath & Beyond? First of all, they're out of business. You want to go support an American-made product, go to mypillow.com. And then you're also supporting one of the nation's most, I would say, Jesus-filled, and a company that is completely built on the gospel of Jesus Christ. So you're getting a 2-for-1 there. You know you've wanted a good night's sleep for years. You're tossing, you're turning. Just go now. Go to mypillow.com. Use promo code Church and State.
CHURCHANDSTATE. That's Church and State.
You do not want to eat synthetic meat. If you can grow a meat in a lab, if you want to go ahead and have Soylent Green on the table, feel free to eat this garbage that Target's trying to throw out. But if you want actual meat that's been freeze-dried, it's been processed by actual human beings, go to griddownchowdown.com.
Look, the World Economic Forum has declared a war on red meat. They hate the cows. They hate the cow farts. There is supply chain issues. And for me, you can pry my steak from my cold, dead hands.
If you want a meat that's going to last freeze-dried 10 years or more, this is the product you want.
I want all of you to go to griddownchowdown.com. Use the promo code Church and State. These are fantastic freeze-dried raw beef. The blood is still in it. You just rehydrate it and add it to your favorite meal, and you are ready to go. And remember, the Holy Word of God tells us, for one person has faith to eat all things, while another who is weak eats only vegetables. That's Romans 14:2.
This was sacred to God. This is exactly why I need some action from my people. Hello, everybody. It's an honor to be with you.